What's up guys, my name is Timbo and welcome back to another Destiny video. I know, big surprise there. Today's video is going to be a special one as we are diving back down into the Destiny theory hole with our nice fancy tinfoil hats. And I can just about guarantee you guys that this is going to be a juicy spicy one. And speaking of juicy spicy ones, a couple of days ago I posted in the community tab, but just in case you didn't see it because YouTube is weird like that, I recently made a merch store. I've got a couple of designs of shirts and hoodies available in multiple colors, including shooting aliens in the face, and you guessed it, a juicy spicy one. There are a few other things like laptop stickers and phone cases too. You should see links to the store on both mobile and desktop right beneath this video. It is super easy to find and head on over. So if you're interested, which you should be, I mean who doesn't need a hoodie? Keep it nice and warm, like a cozy hug all the time. Make sure to check it out. I've also finally gotten my Patreon page put together, packed with different tiers including multiple Discord rewards, exclusive video content and Q&As, getting your name in my videos, priority in playing with me in future streams, and others. To go and check that out, you can follow the link I've provided in the description. I know this video is a lot of channel update stuff so far. Trust me, I'm trying to get through it as quickly as possible, but I just want to keep you guys in the loop with what's happening with the channel, because there's a lot, and there will be even more to come in the next few weeks. But back to what you probably clicked on this video for, which is Destiny. Ah yes, Destiny, the game you're watching on screen. As many of you probably know, on the 18th of July, Bungie released a video talking about the return to the moon in Shadowkeep, and as you can expect, the comments issued in a lot of great discussion. But in a surplus of information, one thing in particular caught a lot of attention. Despite it only showing up a couple of times for a few brief moments, many people in the community were particularly intrigued by the mysterious shadowy figures that can be seen floating in the air. The first instinct for many people, myself included before doing some digging, was that these shadow people were none other than the Darkness. While I don't think that's the case, there are a few things to support that theory. The first of which being that in the Bungie ViDoc, there was a title card reading, "The Darkness is closer than you think." Whatever evil Eris Morn unleashed on the moon is completely unknown, so many people have been led to believe that it has something to do with the Darkness, just kind of by default. The game has been headed in that direction for a long time, and while some people think the Darkness is being saved for a Destiny 3, others speculate that Destiny 2 is just going to continually be updated for years to come, meaning that the Darkness can make its appearance at any time. The other point to support the shadows being the Darkness or something similar is the fact that they just look like the concept art for the 5th race, which has been pretty much exclusively referred to as the Darkness for a while now. This race would also be that of which was woken up by the Traveler in the end credit scene of the Destiny 2 vanilla campaign. Now before we get into what I believe these shadowy figures most likely are, I'm going to explain why they are not the Darkness. Obviously this is just speculation, so I could be wrong, but I kinda doubt it. To do this, I'm going to combat every point I just made in the order I delivered it. First, there's the line, "The Darkness is closer than you think." Well, for one thing, this line is extremely vague, but the main thing I want to get into is this. The Darkness is the opposite of the light, and whatever we've seen on these ships is the ancient enemy of the Traveler. The light is not a race though, it's a power, it's a force. Similarly, what's referred to as the Darkness should be assumed to be such. I do think that maybe at one point when Destiny first came out, the Darkness was a physical entity. But as time has gone on, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, and I think Bungie has changed their mind on that too. The Darkness should be thought of as a power like the light, a much more abstract thing that if it were implemented into the game, it would be a force either a Guardian or other race could wield. It's something that is already worshipped by other races such as the Hive. With that being said, whatever is on the ships at the end of Destiny 2 most likely directly wields the Darkness instead of it actually being that. Some names for them have already been talked about, such as the Veil. When I say the Darkness in this video, I do so as a placeholder for an enemy race that doesn't have a name yet. So where am I going with this? This is basically a long-winded way to say that the Darkness is closer than you think is abstract and more than likely refers to the Force rather than the unnamed ancient enemy we've seen in Destiny 2's credits. I feel like events such as the Forsaken campaign, where we make critical choices that blur the lines between good and evil, Drifter's distrust with the Vanguard, and Callus's whole recruitment process, led to the Darkness coming closer as well, at least in a more metaphorical, abstract way. As far as the concept art, it's very old. If you look at the other races shown in that image, they too have gone through some changes. The shadowy people look somewhat similar, but as far as the tetrahedral ships, there isn't any to be found. And I feel like Bungie wouldn't hide the darkness being in this DLC. It's kind of a big deal. Plus the figures are just out there floating, doing nothing. If they were an enemy, when are they trying to be like, you know, killing us? I'm totally cool if you watch this and disagree with me. I'm a big boy, I can take it. There are no right or wrong answers here. Until Shadowkeep comes out, then someone will be wrong. But, you know, I still love you either way. For the rest of this video, I'm going to tell you the more likely explanation of the shadowy people. The answer to this isn't anything crazy. It just looks at the shadow figures as more of part of the environment than anything else. Just sitting there to create an atmosphere and give the moon some character and ambiance. From what I can tell, they don't look to be everywhere, and they don't seem to be in places we've been to before. I could be wrong about that though. But either way, more than likely, these are the remnants of the souls of the First Light Colony, and potentially many of the Guardians that died during the Great Disaster. For those of you who are unaware, the First Light Colony was a group of humans who went to the moon during the Golden Age. At this time, while technology was advancing, the moon served as an outpost for supporting humanity's colonies across the system. At one point, the moon housed a thriving human colony of interconnected bases, but now after the collapse and the rise of Crota, only broken domes and scattered spacesuits remain. What I'm about to read is a grimoire card from the Taken King. This is the last record from the lunar station, First Light, written from one of their perspectives. So without further ado, grab your favorite pillow and sit down on the rug, cause it's time for some Timbo story time. The tunnels were geologic in nature, or had to be. That's what we thought until 12 hours into the second sublunar expedition when we found the bones. A single long rib cage, the size of an artifact fuselage. The living creatures themselves were found 100 meters down. They might have been worms if worms had scales and teeth and moved more quickly than a man could run. June died first, and then Luli. Bad deaths. Deaths not worth thinking about. And so I don't, as I wander these tunnels lost, waiting to run out of oxygen. Will it hurt, I wonder? That final sleep when it comes. The sleep that isn't sleep. But then everything on the moon is named for what it's not. Have you noticed? The Sea of Serenity? Ocean of Storms? The Sea of Rains? It's only fitting. In the tunnels though, we found things that were exactly what they were. And so now I name them thus. Mark them well, if this recording is found. The Circle of Bones, the Chamber of Night. One does not walk amid these dark tunnels and not lose something. They say that to look out upon the ocean is to feel small, but to walk in these caverns is to feel your grasp on reality slipping. There is no return to what you were before, a believer of science and the fundamental rationality of the universe, not after seeing those worms. But here now at the bottom, I have found the other side of the nightmare. Like waking from a dream only to realize you were still asleep. Perhaps my oxygen is getting low, yes, I can see it is. Hypoxia is already setting in. The thing before me is like myself, partly alive and partly not. An ossified afterbirth, a pulsating tumor. It lays in the crater of its own making, dark and jagged. So here I'll sit and lay me down. I see a doorway, and within, the death white egg cases of nightmares yet to come. And glad am I to miss it. It's important to note that this was during the Golden Age, and the rest of humanity wasn't aware of what happened. The colony that went into the deep got murdered before they could send a signal back to Earth informing them of the Hive presence on the moon. Which is kind of crazy to think about. The fact that the Hive was underneath the moon's surface during the Golden Age and no one seemed to know about it. The shadows being the remnants of the First Light is also backed up when in Bungie's ViDoc, they say that we will discover more about the people who lived on the moon before the collapse, what they did, and what happened to them.
There's a lot of stories that we're telling about the history of humanity here. The people that built the accelerator, the people that built all these structures on the moon. Like, what happened to them? Where did they go?
I do admit though, there seem to be tons of these souls floating around, so I think it's safe to assume those lives lost during the Great Disaster can be added in there as well. It took place after the collapse, but it's still part of the moon's history that I would like to see Bungie delve deeper into with Shadowkeep. What does all of this have to do with what Eris woke up? I have no idea. just guesses. I've made a video on what I think reanimated all of our old enemies. I'll leave a link to that video now if you want to watch it, but that theory is unrelated to the shadowy figures. I can see where people think or want them to be the darkness, but having them be a part of the environment with lore and stories, maybe an adventure or something attached to them, makes more sense, at least to me. But that is where I will end the video for today. Like I said at the beginning, make sure to go check out the merch store and Patreon pages if you haven't, to see if you're interested in anything I'm offering over there. If you enjoyed the video, if you could please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.